Kate, for those kind words. I really appreciate it. Thank you all of you for being here today. What a great turnout. I'm very excited. It's exciting to see so many people who are engaged in the community, who care about what's going on in our state. And I think that's the first step towards our being able to improve things together. I want to thank all of my family members who are here, and there are a lot of them. But I particularly want to acknowledge my wife, Elise. She's not only really the true love of my life, but she's a true partner in this adventure, and I couldn't do it without her. Our fabulous kids, Natalie and Alfie, are here too. You've probably tripped over them already. They're right here in the front.
They have the largest constituency.
They do. A lot of their friends are trailing around. And what an honor to have two leaders like George Bachrach and Warren Tolman with us today and backing my candidacy. Their strong voices for reform have been an inspiration to me and to so many others. And I think they would agree. We need to do even more. We need new leadership on Beacon Hill. Leadership that respects the voters, leadership that listens to the voters, and leadership that's accountable to the voters. Most of all, we need leadership that's independent of the special interests, of the lobbyists, and of the other distractions that prevent the legislature from really focusing on the issues that matter. This race isn't about left versus right. It's not about who can be the better progressive. It's about changing the culture and tone in the legislature. In essence, I think it's about the future versus the failed politics of the past. Now, I believe that the voters of our district actually deserve a choice as to who should be their next state senator. I think I can provide the type of leadership we need to get beyond business as usual and provide an energetic voice for change, accountability, and progressive public policy in the State House. And that's why I'm very proud to announce today that I am a candidate to be the next state senator for Newton, Brookline, and Wellesley. Now, a lot of you know me, but I've spent a lot of my career fighting for progressive values and trying to make a difference. In the political world, I've worked in Washington, but I've also had the honor to work here in Massachusetts for leaders like Warren, George, Mark Roosevelt, all of whom were progressive voices in the legislature, and all of whom ran reform campaigns for governor. In Warren's case, as he mentioned, I was his chief of staff in the state senate, and later his campaign manager when he ran for governor under the Clean Elections law. Clean Elections was a voter-passed initiative that sought to get rid of the influence of big money, to level the playing field, and to encourage participation in the political process. And even though Warren met the stringent requirements of the law, the legislature refused to fund it. We actually had to sue the legislature to get them to obey the will of the people and fund clean elections. And we won that lawsuit. I have always been proud of the work we did to fight for reform, to improve the political process, and to stand up to business as usual on Beacon Hill. And I want to continue that work as your state senator. Now, in the international arena, after the Balkan Wars of the 1990s, I spent several years working to promote democracy and the rule of law in Bosnia, in Kosovo, and in other countries, because I believed the world's greatest democracy had an obligation to help those countries who were trying to become democratic. It was truly a life-changing experience. I had the privilege to work with leaders who were struggling to make the transition from war and communism to peace and democracy. And it really opened my eyes to the critical role of vigorous, accountable, and responsive democratic institutions. And when I look at what's going on up on Beacon Hill, it's clear we could use some democracy building right here at home. Now at a more local level, Elise and I live here in Newton with our two children. Alfie goes to the Cabot Elementary School just down the street. Natalie's going to be starting there in the fall. What a great community. I've been able to get involved as a soccer and Little League coach, as a member of the Cabot School Council and PTO, as a library volunteer, and as the treasurer of my ward Democratic Committee. And I'll tell you, it's been a pleasure to be able to meet wonderful and inspirational people like Kate Johnson. And it's from this perspective, when you're grounded in the community, that I think the need for new leadership becomes most apparent. Because when you look around and you see the challenges in our schools, and you see the rising costs of healthcare, and you see the continued economic stagnation, and then you look at the mess on Beacon Hill, it's clear the current system is failing us. What we increasingly see in the legislature is a culture marked by scandal, conflict of interest, and the influence of lobbyists and political action committees. The last 3 speakers of the House have been indicted. Over the past year and a half, 3 state senators have been arrested or charged with criminal misconduct. You have the overwhelming influence of lobbyists and political action committees and their money on the policy debates shaping our future. I think all of this has led to a real imbalance in priorities. I want to set a new tone and get our priorities back on track. I will be a full-time legislator because I believe the challenges we face demand full-time attention. I will refuse money, and I am refusing money, from the lobbyists and the political action committees because I think legislators should only be accountable to the people. And I will be a strong voice, not just a vote, but a leader on the issues that are critical to our future. Issues like education, healthcare, and the economy, to name 3. Now, in education, I understand what's going on in our schools, and I know we can be doing better to help prepare our kids for the 21st century, to get better training for our teachers, and to address the issues of crumbling schools. Even here in Newton, Alfie's school, just down the street, is in such disrepair that it's slated to be demolished. In the area of healthcare, I bring the perspective of 7 years' experience in the medical device industry at Boston Scientific. I also bring the perspective of a parent whose daughter had to have open heart surgery when she was 3 months old. I know the miracles that are possible under our current healthcare system. Massachusetts has led the nation in expanding coverage, but we have to finish the job by controlling costs. We have the most expensive costs of healthcare in the country. The reforms we've been able to undertake are not sustainable unless we find a solution. And we have to improve the climate for businesses, especially small businesses who are the backbone of our economy. The most important thing we can do is to address the issue of healthcare costs because those are crippling small businesses and hampering job growth. We can also make it easier for business to navigate the labyrinth of state agencies that have jurisdiction over economic development. With experience in the private sector, I bring some expertise and can help craft solutions that will make an impact. I'd like to take my experiences in the community, in the public sector, and in the private sector to help tackle tough issues like these without the distractions of lobbyist special interests and outside jobs. I want to move beyond the failed politics of the past and provide a voice for accountable government for the future. But I can't do it alone. I need all of your help, as George and Warren both said. This is a grassroots effort, and the only way we'll be able to change the culture on Beacon Hill is if we join together and make our voice heard as part of this campaign. Yes, it's an uphill battle to take on an incumbent, but we're already building momentum. In the short time since we've been up and running, hundreds of people have signed up for my Facebook fan page. Hundreds more have signed our nomination papers. And I've been attending house parties, and we've scheduled house parties all across the district. And I'll tell you, as I've been out there talking to voters in Newton, Brookline, and Wellesley, the response has been fantastic. People are excited to actually have a choice in this race, and they want an alternative to business as usual. And that's the key. We don't have to settle for business as usual. We shouldn't settle for business as usual, and we won't have to settle for business as usual if you join with me in my effort to bring new leadership and a new direction to Beacon Hill. Thank you all so much for being here today.